Welcome to the Fallout programme, following on from Tyson Fury against Deontay Wilder. On the Pitch Boxing app, we've got an esteemed lineup with us today. I'm going to go from top left on my screen. We've got James Sunderland. How you doing, James?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. You well? You good?
I'm very good, thank you. One of our regulars on our Fans Fight Back show on Pitch Boxing. We've got boxing journalist, superstar Steve Lillis. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Martin. Thanks for inviting me on, pal.
Never a problem. We've got Lee Swaby, a former Tyson Fury opponent. He's got first-hand knowledge. How are you, Lee?
Good evening. Yeah, pretty good. Thanks. Thanks for inviting me on. It's one of the first times I've done this sort of thing in a long time. So yeah, nice.
Lovely. We'll have you back anytime. Richard Poxon, of course. Richard Poxon. How you doing, Rich?
Why can't I be called a superstar like Lillis?
Why? Because Lillis is a superstar.
Yeah, but I want to be one. Me too.
You're a superstar in your own right, Rich. We all know that. And finally, on my screen, Spencer Fearon. How are you, Spencer?
I'm very good, mate.
You're the man who needs no introduction. People know Spencer Fearon is. I'm loving your glasses, Spencer, as well.
Oh, thank you very much, my friend.
They're always very stylish. Right, where do we start? What a fight Saturday night. Who got up for it? Let's start there. Who woke up? Who stayed up?
Yeah, I was up for that fight. I wasn't going to miss that for the world. Me and Tundi did a fight. Me and Tundi Ajay, trainer by any yard. We do a fight along. And it's like, we got mad numbers on it as well. So I'm kind of gassed over that. But yeah, it was a great fight, man.
Yeah. Steve,
I didn't get up.
Yeah, I never got up. I was running. Oh, my excuse is good enough. I was running the Manchester Marathon that morning, so I watched it about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I knew the results. I wasn't going to be able to keep away from the result. And the first thing I did about 20 to 6 in the morning, I think it had just finished a few minutes earlier.
Congratulations for doing the marathon, though, Steve.
Did they have oysters from Manchester?
Sorry, no, they don't do that. No,
They don't. All right, I could see why you did the marathon then. Everyone just get on me.
Rich, were you up?
If I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning now, it takes me 3 weeks to recover.
Takes you 3 weeks for your hip to get out of bed.
Yeah. Next morning job.
Lee, were you up?
Well, I was at work. I was on duty, firefighter. So I was actually being paid to watch. Quite nice. But, yeah, I actually woke up leaving the toilet. I went to the toilet, then got back into bed, laid there, and thought, I'm not going to lie here and not get up. It's ridiculous. So I got up and watched it.
And James, what about you?
Yeah, I did. I was up. That's one that I weren't going to miss. I don't think I slept much before it. I were absolutely buzzing. I think I was messaging you shortly after. I couldn't sleep. Just laid in bed, like wide awake afterwards.
My old man, I always take this in an indictment of how big a fight. My old man asked me about it on the Saturday morning. Yeah. And then, similar to Lee's scenario, he apparently woke up for a piss at 4 o'clock in the morning. So then he rang me and said, "Are you up?" He came over my house at like 4:30 to come and watch it.
Nice.
Impressive. So, what were the takeaways?
I just like to apologise if anyone saw me dog trying to mate with my arm. Then it's not a usual occurrence in this house. It's just a bit uncontrollable.
What are the takeaways from it then? I mean, obviously, we all know the outcome. We all know the downs, the ups. What a fight. Like, I can't remember in my lifetime a heavyweight fight of such excitement. Spencer, you're the historian here. Let's start from your take of it. Where does that rank for you amongst heavyweight world titles?
It's up there. Top 5.
Really?
Yeah, top 5. Definitely top 5. You think, was it better for Malau that for a world heavyweight? Right? Was it better than Joe Louis Maximilian, the second fight? I think for the historical occurrence, no. Was it better than Ali Free, the Free Manila? No. Was it better than Joshua Klitschko? Then I'll have to say yes, it was. There've been some great fights. You can't forget Holyfield Boulder first fight, incredible fight, right? But what I'm saying is, like, we get drawn into say, "Oh, the greatest thing," because it's like it's right now, and it's a new genre of eyeballs watching boxing right now. And I think what this has done is like put this mockery box with all these YouTubers fighting each other and stuff like that. It's kind of put in this place, like, right, but this is the rules. and we were fortunate enough to see something of that spectacular, because 5 knockdowns, one man going down 3 times, next guy going down 2 times. It was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. It's up there. It's the top 5. It's got to be top 5.
Yeah.
But then sometimes when you put into perspective, let's find out how we look at the fight in 6 months' time. If we're going to still watch it in 6 months' time and say, wow, then I'm not too sure. Because I know there's certain fights that I've seen, or there's certain fighters that I've seen, and they've given me that wow factor, and it's been 30 years ago, and I still watch it and say, wow. But for a heavyweight title fight, especially when we had Anthony Joshua in a kind of lackluster performance 2 weeks prior, it was something special.
Yeah. Steve.
Don Majeski said something yesterday, Steve. He said, in terms of excitement, it's probably a top 5 fight. In terms of skill on show, it's nowhere near.
Yeah, you know what? I thought it was the best heavyweight fight I've seen since Bo Holyfield won. I said that the other night. I was so lucky. I was lucky enough to be at that fight. I'm blessed to be there. I don't think, as wildly exciting and dramatic and the pure theatre that it was the other night, we should celebrate it. But, did it have the quality of a Bo Holyfield one? No, but it doesn't stop it being an absolutely sensational, dramatic fight. It was a night Tyson Fury become a global superstar because everybody's talking about it. But I get uncomfortable when we start comparing these things with the yesteryear and all that. Let's just celebrate what we got. It's like pound for pound lists. They're mythical in a lot of them. We have our favourites who we have in them. Let's not compare it with, Ali Frazier 3. How can you? Bo Holyfield. And let's just enjoy how great it was the other night and what it's done for boxing in this era.
James, you're our fan on it. You're our resident fan.
Yep.
I mean, how good was it to sit and watch and just enjoy? Yeah. But also as a fan of a younger generation of boxing fans, me and you, we're decades younger than everyone else. Ish.
Yeah, I think for me watching it, yeah, I agree completely with what you're saying there in terms of, was it the most skilled affair? No, but then I think going back to the Anthony Joshua fight, I think I messaged you this as well, Martin, saying all I wanted to see from Joshua in that fight is him go to the well, and leave a little bit of himself in that ring, which is horrendous for a fan to say. But ultimately, when you look at Fury and Wilder in that fight, I don't think either of them walked out the same man as they walked in. They left everything in the ring. And that's probably all, that's what fans want to see. They want to see someone go to the well and give it their all. And then you do get that. That's what makes it so exciting. And yeah, it was brilliant to watch. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. Again, not the most skilled affair, elements of skill, but you literally couldn't take your eyes off it. Every time you thought Fury's on the verge of stopping him, Wilder does land, and then you think, oh, is he? It were amazing, absolutely brilliant to watch. I've watched it back since, and still can't believe it went 11 rounds. If someone would have said at the end of the 4th round, this is going to be an 11th round stoppage, you wouldn't have believed it. But this is what I'm saying. They both went to the well,
And it's those elements of peril that you enjoy. Yeah. And for that reason, as boxing fans, from my lifetime, I remember, I could vividly sit and picture now Prince Nassim versus Kevin King. I could vividly remember Froch Groves 1. All those moments where you think of fighters that you think that fight must be over at some point.
Yeah.
And they're not. And Wilder getting up. I want to go to you, Lee. How much of Tyson Fury that you remember did you see on Saturday night? Or is it a completely different fighter than, he fought you in his 4th pro fight?
He's changed massively. For my experience of him in the ring on that first fight, I thought he was nothing special at all. After that, I went about a month and a half, 2 months later, I went up to Manchester and sparred him, and I thought, whoa, hello, this is
really?
Yeah. In the gym compared to the ring, he was a complete different animal. He really, I had to go to the well, to coin a phrase that we just heard. I had to go to the well in sparring thinking, this guy knows what he's doing. In the ring, because he was under the lights, he wasn't sure of himself at that point, he didn't have it. Since then, he's got it and got it and got it and got it and got it. So we can't fault what he's doing now. He's certainly progressed and brought what he already had in the gym back onto display on the pinnacle of heavyweight stardom now.
And that's interesting. So I realised it was only his 4th pro fight, I think, when he fought you. So there wouldn't have been all the razzmatazz, the build-up, all of that stuff. But was there anything mental that he was playing about with you during the kind of, the weigh-ins or any of that stuff? Or was it just straightforward?
He didn't have time to. I had 3 days' notice.
Stop moaning, Swaby. Stop moaning. Who made that fight?
Hey, I'm stating the fact. He asked the question. Did he have time? He didn't have time to give me any verbal in the lead up to it. It was all about, if you want it, I'll have it. Go on, then that'll do. And because we're heavyweights, we didn't even see each other weigh-in half the time. It was like, right, we're heavyweight, crack on.
Yeah. Didn't you fight Chisora in your next fight?
Probably. Yeah, I know. I don't know whether before or around here, but yeah.
Yeah, it was around then.
Zora, in comparison, was, I nearly swore there, was rubbish.
Really?
I played with Chisora for 2 rounds. Then he thumbed me in the eye, headbutted me, punched me in the back of the head, and then they stopped me. But there you go. That's the non-promoted fight for you. So yeah, that was a different thing entirely. But the way Fury has changed from his first couple of fights, then me, then onwards, is graphic.
If somebody had asked you after that fight with him, will he ever be a world title holder? Would you have laughed? Would you have assumed they're mad, or would you have said there's the potential there?
If you'd have asked me after the fight, I probably would have laughed. If you'd asked me after the sparring, I would have said, yeah, probably.
It's interesting. Rich, how high does it sit with you in your pantheons of fights?
Look, in terms of excitement, like you've just said, like it was like a Nassim Kelly, weren't it? It was, Bo Holyfield in terms of excitement. It's up there. Like I say, the ability on display weren't great. They both just, went at each other. But sometimes fights are about more than skill on display. And I think that one was all about character, weren't it? From both of them. Even Loser showed a tremendous character to keep getting up and then, knocking him down and seeing him get back up again and keep going. I think that fight, the best way to sum it up for both of them were they both showed tremendous character.
Yeah. A show of hands, who thought the fight was over in the 3rd round? Because I did.
Oh, yeah, probably.
I thought it read in that way.
If it weren't for the clock, I think it would have been.
Yeah, I mean, I was assuming when they came out for the 4th, it was going to end in that round. I thought this is a replay of the 2nd fight. This is going to get a walkover now.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And so at the end of the 4th round, who thought the fight was going to be over?
I watched it delayed and I couldn't believe it got up from the 2nd knockdown.
Yeah.
So if I'd been watching that live, I would have thinking this is going to end any second, even though there weren't a lot left.
Which other heavyweights throughout the course of time would have survived that 4th round? That right, you've all seen the slow motion, the Fury punch where it lands on his jaw, goes down through those ripples across his back into his legs, and he almost face plants on the floor. Who else is getting back up almost stronger after that? Who would we say?
Larry Holmes would have.
Okay.
Spencer, do you think Holyfield would have?
Yeah, most.
Yeah, Holyfield was the first one that come to mind. I always go to Spencer when I need to know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I would have said Evan, but you know what? We don't know because we like.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, well, we like to think because we like to romanticize these things. But I saw a still of the size of Deontay Wilder's arms. They were massive.
Yeah.
He properly bulked up for that fight. He properly was, and like, unfortunately, with Deontay Wilder, is whereas he's become so reliant on his punching power, his skills have eroded. Where the guy can actually box, but because he just realized, well, this one trick wonder thing works for me actually, so I'm gonna stick on doing what I do because I can knock guys out. But unfortunately, what's happened is his boxing skill, which wasn't there anyway. So what he did have there has eroded. So when him linking up with Malik Scott, who I've got props, he did a very, very good job. I like how he worked Tyson Fury's body for the first 2 rounds. And then Tyson Fury is a boxing thesaurus because he figured out that you're attacking me to the body. I'm going to pull back. As you go to the body, I'm going to throw my jab out. And it was such a great fight. But I don't know we say like who would have got up from that? You know what? I think Rocky Marciano would have got up from that shot as well, even though he's a smaller guy. But Rocky Marciano, you speak to a lot of the old heads who are around, like Don Turner, who trained around the Holyfield and Larry Holmes. Just the props that he would give Rocky Marciano was a different kind of time. So I think in history, not many guys would have got up from that right hand because the way he hit Tyson Fury, but he kind of caught Tyson on the top of the head. If they caught him on the jaw with that shot, I think he'd been gone, mate.
Can I just make allude to one thing? On the second knockdown that Fury suffered in the fourth, his feet were together, massively together, to the point where they were nearly touching. That didn't do him any favors. I don't think the second knockdown was technically that much of a knockdown as a more of a I'm off balance, I'm going down anyway.
I totally agree with you, because I was watching that on a fight along, and when he went down, I said he's all right, you know. I said he's all right. He's all right, and it's kind of weird as well when you're seeing like someone with that kind of ridiculous punching power like Deontay Wilder. And it's nuts punching power. But unfortunately, because he's a one-trick pony, we only look at him because he's not bringing nothing else. You got to think. Now he's going to be wondering, does he really punch harder than Lennox Lewis? Lennox Lewis had so much more variety to him. If you said that Lennox Lewis, you could just swing like Deontay Wilder, we would say Lennox Lewis was the hardest hitter of all time. If we said to Mike Tyson, who was multifaceted in his attacks, so it's kind of hard because we're just focused on this one thing that the guy does. He has got freakish punching power, but freakish punching power against who?
So take away the second fight and all of the controversy around Mark Breland stopping the fight. Breland, my apologies. If you're watching Mark, my apologies. Taking that away, who thinks the fight should have been stopped by Malik Scott or anyone else in Wilder's court? Like, were you slightly surprised to see the fight go on to rounds 8, 9, 10, 11?
I think problem you've got with somebody like Wilder is when you know that he just needs that one shot for the corner and the corner team, he's always in it. Until he's out, he's always in it. And that's probably where the reluctance to pull him out of it. Stevie, you've seen it. How many fights have we seen where we've been screaming?
Yeah, and you know what? I've only seen the fight the once, so I was gonna. I've got to do. Yeah, that's on BT again tonight. I've only seen the fight the once, so you know. I thought Tyson. You say about pulling him out there at the end of the 10th round, he hurt Tyson. I thought.
Yeah.
So that justifies maybe Malik Scott did the right thing.
You only watched the fight once?
I've only watched it once so far.
Listen, man, I'm going to tell you the honest truth. After the fight ended, I don't know if anyone else was the same. I didn't sleep, I watched that fight about 30 times. Because I went up from after the fight, then because that fight was like, wow, it was like, wow, what am I watching here? And I was going back and I kept on watching the fight. I did Sky Sports News, Channel 4 News, and BBC Radio, and I watched it right throughout. I went to bed about 1 o'clock that afternoon. I stayed up, watched the fight, and I just kept on watching it. It was such an incredible fight.
Spencer, you're a pugilistic athlete. Not in terms of being in ring, just in terms of enduring watching it that many times from that time in morning.
No, bro, listen, I just love the game. So I love boxing so much. Like, if I see something, I think, right, that was actually tantalizing. I'm just going to continually watch it. And not only that, but with all the arguments about Mark Breland spiking my water and all that kind of nonsense and that, I thought it was pretty shabby on behalf of Deontay Wilder not accepting defeat at that time, even though I understand it, but I think he should have accepted the fact and he should have congratulated Tyson Fury, and he didn't do that, and that was the only dampener on the fight.
I want to come on to that. I'm gonna throw it at James to start with. From a fan's perspective, James.
Yep.
The words of Deontay Wilder at the end to Tyson Fury were, "I don't respect you."
Yeah, I think when you look at the last 20 minutes, and he's released a statement tonight, hasn't he? I don't know if anyone's seen it. He has released something and congratulated Fury. He has put something out there now. But I think the last however many months it's been, there was so much sort of like negativity towards him, questioning his character, thinking he's deluded, he's gone, he's all this. The key was in the door. He'd proven to everyone he had the heart, the character. He just had to just shake his hand, respect, but he didn't do it. And on the night, I was all in on the Deontay Wilder train after the fight, and then I was like, I might just be back off after that. I don't know if that makes sense, but just quickly coming on to something you touched upon then about should it have been stopped. If I'm honest, I never thought he needs pulling out. Because I think every time Fury hurt him, Fury seemed to smother his work, so he didn't seem to follow it up on it straight away. Then he'd get his legs back and Wilder would punch. So I never thought pull him out.
It felt to me like Fury was smothering his work for two reasons. One is that he was tired by that point, Wilder, that if Fury did his work and then smothered it, he could just put his weight on him and then tire him out a little bit more. But it also stopped the extension of that right hand.
Yeah.
If you just keep it up close and you take away you negate that one weapon that Wilder
had. I agree.
And so at that point, you just do everything you can to avoid any risk. Lee, as a boxer, I don't respect you. Like, does that sit comfortably? That's not me saying it to you, by the way. Let's clarify that. Far from it.
When you've been emphatically beaten twice and got a jammy draw out of a third, then how can you not applaud your opponent? It is ridiculous and so unsportsmanlike that it's atrocious. And for him to stand there as trying to be an ambassador for the sport when quite a lot of boxing and fight fans have gone the UFC route and whatever else, we need to bring fight fans back to boxing, because for him not to get a sportsman's comment at the end going, fair play, you were the better man. I mean, how hard is that? And now he's done it. That's even worse. It's like, that's a spoiled brat moment. Oh, I've lost. I'm taking my ball. I'm going to play over there. Have a word with yourself, mate. Come on, shake the man's hand. He's just beaten you. Well, do yourself a favour.
He's probably not done it anyway. It's probably his PR team. Let's be honest.
1,000,000% it has been.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to play devil's advocate to it and say I don't mind it.
Why can't you play God's advocate?
You what, sorry?
Why can't you play God's advocate?
Because that's not a saying that I'm aware of, Spencer.
Yeah.
It is now.
Yeah.
My opinion was it's terrible. It's totally wrong to show disrespect, but I cut him a bit of slack on this. I mean, look, I'll go. Lee and Spencer have been in there. They know what it's like at the end of a hard fight. So I haven't. So, what's going through your mind. But I thought, you know what? You've had this rivalry going back for years since this guy. It's been spoken up 3-4 years before they first fought. It's been a dramatic trilogy, excitement. A lot of words have been said. And that Mike's picked him saying that up maybe a minute or so after the fight, after he's just been beaten. Maybe I'm sure he will regret it now. And it's not a nice thing to say, but I think we've got to cut him some slack. I thought his behaviour after the second fight, when he was coming up with excuses, was far worse.
I'm actually with you, Steve. I think it was such a traumatic moment for him. Probably that realization that this man is better than I am at boxing. The one thing I'm really good at, I've now got to accept this other man is better than me. And I never thought that'd probably be the case. He's proven it twice now, if not 3 times. And I've got to come to a mental realization that I'm not the best at what I do. That must have been traumatic amongst all the pain that you're in, the tiredness, the swathes of people around you, the cameras in your face, looking over the ring and seeing a stool with big dosser on it, all these things. And in that moment, for him not to say it, I have a sympathy for what he said. I don't respect you. I'd imagine he reflected upon it and maybe changed his mind. Good evening, Don. How are you, by the way?
Very well. I ran into a moped the other day, so I was a little late today. I had to get up resting, but I'm fine. Thank you very much. I feel like a little bit like Deontay Wilder today, but I'm doing well. Thank you.
You ran into a moped?
Yeah, well, crossing the street. New York has taken on the look of Jakarta or Manila now. Mopeds. sidewalks not interfering with where they want to go. And he hit me, but it was okay because he had no license plate, no license to drive the vehicle. So it was understandable that, that's
Crikey.
But that's all in the day's work. What can I say? I'm happy to be here, and thank you for having me at such a late time in the middle of the show. Appreciate
I
it.
hope you didn't tell him after you respected him, Don.
Well, I got up. I didn't know he wouldn't shake my hand after. Well, he would shake my hand, but I was like Wilder. I was unwilling to shake his, and he took off into the middle of the night, and then that was about it. No big lawsuit, no insurance claim, just a couple of sore bones, but I'll survive it. Yeah.
I like the idea you might have got up and dropped him in the next round, Don.
Yeah, well, I would have tried if I had a moped. If I was looking for a truck to get even, but I couldn't find one.
Don, your arrival is great timing because I was going to move on to the US view of Tyson Fury right now. Has it ever been higher than what it is, this week?
No, absolutely not. I don't think anybody, first, no one could have anticipated a fight of that magnitude with that back and forth and then the way they gave so much of each other and both showing so much heart and so much willingness to sacrifice everything to win. No, he's at a real all-time high. I mean, you can read the internet and the questions going back and forth. It's Tyson an all-time great. We all laughed when Warren made this presumptuous statement before the fight. If Tyson Fury wins this, he'll be a top 10 all-time heavyweight, up there with the Alleys and Joe Louis and Dempsey, and it was laughed off. Now he's got an argument. I don't say he belongs there, but he certainly has an argument on that performance, how dominant he was.
It's an interesting one. What does anyone else think to that perception? I mean, the downside to that argument is always going to be that his CV is 3 lots of Wilder, 1 lot of Klitschko, and a couple of Derek Chisoras. There's probably not an awful lot else to back it up. What does anyone else think about his kind of standing in the greatness?
I just think something that's funny, and this is probably one for Don and Steve as well. If you look now how we're all talking about this fight, in the lead up to this fight, and Steve will know this in press and Don from American press, this was the fight that everybody said, this is the fight that nobody wants. This is the fight that boxing doesn't need. This is the fight that makes a mockery out of politics of boxing and lawyers. Nobody's interested in this fight. How do you sell this fight? And now we're sat here a few days later saying, is it one of the top 3 or 4 heavyweight title fights ever?
Yeah, hindsight's a wonderful thing. Certainly, Don and know what the American view of this, but everybody, I don't think there's anyone here out of us. There's 6, 7 of us here who didn't want to see Joshua Fury first before the other night. So there's a good reason for that being the fight nobody wanted, especially in Britain, because we wanted this fight for the first time in history, 2 Brits fighting for all 4 belts. That's why it was a fight nobody wanted in this country. And you can say hindsight's a wonderful thing, but no, there's a reason for why people didn't want this fight again, particularly in this country. I don't know what the feeling was in America, whether this is the fight nobody wanted or they wanted the Joshua Fury fight. Only Don can answer that, I guess.
Series, famous series where fighters have fought 3 times for the heavyweight title. The third Patterson-Johansson fight was won. Well, Patterson definitively knocked him out. He got beaten the first time in an upset, was a lucky punch or lucky punches. He was down many times by Johansson. But once he flattened Johansson, they pretty much answered the question. Yet the third fight turned out to be the best. There were 3 knockdowns, 1 each for Patterson, Johansson in the first round. Patterson ended up knocking him out. Ali and Frazier 3, there really wasn't that kind of great anticipation. They figured, well, Frazier's been already knocked out by Foreman. He was beaten in the rematch by Ali, and yet he rose to that occasion. But it's true, it's a good fight, but there was no crazy rabid anticipation. 15,000 people at the arena. It wasn't sold out. So it sort of was, well, it's a good enough fight we can find with no anticipation like that. And the Joshua fight made everything else anticlimactic. Now the problem was, how can Joshua Usyk top this? That's going to be interesting. They had such a great fight here. It could either work that more people will be interested in it now, or less people because they've been exhausted by the excitement of this match.
Moving away from Fury for a second, where do people want to see Wilder end up after this? For instance, should Usyk beat Joshua in the rematch, I'd love to see Wilder Joshua. No belts, no politics, just let him fight. What does anyone else want for Wilder right now?
I don't want to see him slide down the scale. And Spencer will answer this one. I don't want to see Spencer him slide down the scale because I don't want to see him get beaten by somebody who's, you know, an average heavyweight. I think unless it's like a Joshua or he gets a chance of Ruiz, or maybe him and Ruiz would be a mega fight, not a mega fight maybe, but still be Don, would that still be an important fight on a well-picked day, an Hispanic against an American?
Well, we spoke about how was Tyson Fury perceived in America, and I think the stock and Wilder has risen because the fact that Wilder was really, he's a great puncher. They didn't think he had heart. We saw the way he was talking after the last fight when we're looking for every excuse, every alibi to blame why he lost his trainer, the gloves, the drugs with Tyson Fury. But the belief in him now has risen. So I think he's a very popular heavyweight. Now there's a new division they created that hasn't taken off yet, is the bridgerweight. And his weight, that's interesting because the first fight he was very low in weight, was a draw. The other fights he put on weight, maybe 15 pounds, which is unnatural for him. He could slide back into that division, win it, and then campaign as a heavyweight from there with a title. So that's a possibility. But I think he's very light to fight any of these guys, Ruiz or any of the top contenders, because of the performance he made. He definitely ingratiated himself to the public, definitely here in the United States, more than he ever was before. We never thought he had that heart.
I think you'll see what money's out there for him. You know what? He's 35. He's been a professional since top med 2008, I think. It's a long time. A lot of that time has been how many world title fights, and not just the fights. Some of these guys he's blasted away quick. A lot of them, but it's the camps, the training camps. He's been a pro a long time. He's made a hell of a lot of money. It's going to have to add up for him financially. And there's not a lot of fights out. Like the Ruiz fight is a great fight, but I'd like to see that. But what does it draw financially?
Yeah. James, as a fan, where do you want to see Wilder go next, if he goes anywhere at all?
Again, it's a difficult one because I think anybody, if you would watch Wilder again after that, I think it's just about what he wants, because he's always said the thing, hasn't he? One face, one name, one champion. So was his motivation to be number one in the division and nothing else? And if that is the case, it's surely deep down he knows that's never going to be him. So what does he want to achieve? Is it just big money? I mean, I would love to see him fight somebody of note that's a reasonable name, but him just absolutely someone. I know that sounds bad. You never want to see anyone get hurt, but nothing is more exciting. And I'm a big Fury fan, but nothing is more exciting than when you hear seconds out and in a Wilder fight, because you just know that anything can happen. So I'd love to see him fight. I don't know,
Charles Martin,
even someone like just been bit like Kaunaki. I would not be against that, because you just know what you're there for. And then maybe like say Ruiz fight, or even, say for example, him and Joshua. Say Joshua gets beat again, which in my opinion I think he will. And if they both get a win, just why does it have to be for any belts? Just let them get. I would pay good money to see that. And again, apologies. I've had a lucky treat for you, Martin. I've had to take you upstairs, which is something you never thought I'd say. So apologies.
Come to where the magic happens.
Well, always, mate.
It's like we got your version of Cribs.
Yeah.
Lee, before we move on entirely from Wilder, I wanted to ask you a question, because you're a man of like similar stature, heavyweight who's fought. Do you find it strange watching him when he backs himself into a corner, and this is an Olympic bronze medalist, that his defensive chain falls to absolute pieces?
He's very much. The problem is he's gone around destroying people so many times that he's become something to a degree a one-trick pony. He's like, he knows he can do it. He knows he can bang him. So if he goes back to the ropes, he doesn't resort. He resorts to what he's been doing for so long, and because he hasn't done that in such a long time, he comes back wanting. He showed it in the first round. First round, he came out throwing out a long jab to the body, and he's actually won the round quite comfortably in my eyes. And I thought, well, that's different. Fair play, nice to see. And then all of a sudden, he stopped. Now, Fury obviously was doing little things and little angle changes and moving back slightly to make it a little more tricky for him to carry on doing that, but he didn't even try to carry on. So therefore, as soon as that went slightly pear-shaped for him, he then resorted back to what he knows and did the same old thing. And he was never going to beat Fury in that manner. Now, for him, it either works or it doesn't. And 90% of who he's ever fought, it's all worked. So for him to change it now or to resort back to what got him to the position where he was fighting these guys in the first place is a difficult thing to do. I was guilty of it. When I chinned Macrinelli, I went for the next 6, 7, 8 fights. I was throwing the same shot thinking, that'll chin anyone. That'll chin anyone, that will. And it didn't. You know, I blew people's eyes up like you wouldn't believe. But it didn't drop them like it dropped Macrinelli. So it's a different thing.
Yeah, yeah. Rich, Steve, Spencer, I'm going to throw it out to you guys. It's your kind of area of expertise. Will we see Fury fight back over here in the UK within the next 1-2 fights? What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think he'll fight Dillian White. I think the WBC order it. I think he'll fight that fight. I think the build-up will be fantastic. I think they'll both really go for it. They'll sell it brilliantly, as did Tyson and Deontay last week. They were sensational with their PR and media last week. And, you know, there's a fascinating side, you know, obviously, what happened to the fight if it goes to purse bids. Now, we know there's not a lot to play with. Donna know the exact WBC thing. I don't know if it's 75-25 for mandatory. I'm not sure. Donna will be able to tell me for definite or tell us for definite there. What happens if...
Just 70-30, Steve.
70-30. So, you know, White's side, if he's under contract to Matchroom still, I don't know. I've no idea. They've only got 30% to pay with. But what if the Zone, because they're trying to make a splash over here, decide to go taters deep and bid absolute ridiculous money for it? Tyson Fury won't give a monkey. He's getting 70% of it, even though they haven't got... It's going to be fascinating as well. That's that aspect of it as well, because it is the sort of fight where there's not a lot to play with, the challenger's side could go in big because of the zone situation in the UK and Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Rich, that's your kind of area, broadcasters.
No, listen, I mean, me and Spencer were on about this the other day. You could see an Amazon come in, you could see a Facebook come in. I think there's that much attention around Fury now. We can talk about the Zone, we can talk about Sky, we can talk about BT. You could see somebody flying from left field. What do you think, Spen?
1,000,000% Rich. As soon as Netflix say they want to throw their hand into boxing, it's all over. And just remember, I'm telling you, it's going to come. It's going to come. So I could definitely see Tyson Fury being over here. But what I also can see, I can see Tyson Fury becoming a franchise WBC champion, vacating the WBC belt, and Dillian White fighting Joe Joyce. But I do think that Tyson Fury would love to fight in the UK. You got to think, who else is there for Tyson Fury? They know really top name American heavyweights for him to go and mix with now. Dillian White and Tyson Fury at Wembley would be absolutely immense. The build-up would be better than the fight.
Right. I mean, there's an entire narrative that, like, boxing fans are perverts for this stuff, aren't they? There's that narrative that would be built from the moment it got discussed through to, as Steve mentioned earlier, would it go to purse bids or would they come to an arrangement outside of it? Broadcast rights, shared broadcast rights, potentially between different broadcast platforms. That's before you even put the two men in the same room together. Like, boxing fans feed off of that kind of energy, those kind of storylines. It almost, you know, it's WWF stuff to that degree. But it would generate more interest, more excitement than probably any other fight on the planet. And that's Dillian White. Imagine what Joshua would do.
Don, do you think Fury, was like you said, he's riding crest of a phase at the minute, crest of a wave. Do you think he'll be as popular? Do you think he'll get as much attention if he fights a non-American? Or do you think it'll die off?
Well, I think, here now we got Otto Wallen, who's, based in the U.S. He's fighting White. He's got a chance to win. You saw the fight he gave to Tyson Fury. And if he wins, that's a big fight for America for us. I know it'd be big in Britain, but I saw James Dolan, who's the owner of Madison Square Garden, sitting next to Bob Arum at the fight. And I'm certain, we're looking at that performance by Tyson Fury, he'd love to have him in Madison Square Garden. So I think, right now he's so super hot. He's flavor of the day, flavor of the month. So everybody's going to come out of the woodwork. And as you said about the bidding and everybody's talking about the different possibilities, he's hotter than ever. People who don't know boxing now know Tyson Fury. So if he's going to hit and catch on this victory. Wow, he's got the right time to do it with the right opponents. Not really high risk, but he'll get so disproportionately well paid. But yeah, he could come here and fight in the States right now. As I said, he's hotter than he's ever been.
But you're right, that Otto Wallin fight with Dillian White, that's no gimme that Dillian White's going to win that.
Yeah, I give him definitely a chance. Dillian White's surely the favorite, but this guy gave a great fight, and he's a live underdog, definitely so.
What if? All right, let's run it through that Wallin ends up beating White. Has anyone got an appetite to see Fury Wallin 2? Because it become the WBC mandatory.
There's a rematch clause, isn't there? Dylan White's got a rematch clause.
Oh, okay. Right.
It's bollocks, in it. Excuse my French. It's just ridiculous. Like,
no, I agree.
There's not actually really, and even if there's not that many people you'd want to see Fury in with now, I don't think, other than Joshua, like maybe White from a British point of view, and Usyk if he beats Joshua again. Who do you actually want to see in box?
This is kind of where I'm coming from, in that Spencer mentioned it earlier. They could make Fury WBC franchise champion and then just let him fight whoever. Like, don't worry about the belts at that point. Don't worry about titles. He's probably, I mean, what is he, 33 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes,
33 in August he was, yeah.
And he fights twice a year, if that, maybe once a year. We've maybe got 2, 3, maximum 4 fights left out of Tyson Fury. Do we need to see one of those being Otto Wallin 2? Not really. We'd love to see Joshua, White. I don't know, maybe a Joyce, maybe I don't know who else coming up underneath that, Hrgovic. But it's a very limited pool of people that's going to entice him to carry on, surely, unless people can think of others that I've missed off a list.
Steve, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can see him fighting White, providing he wins that, which I'd fancy him to. Fighting the winner of Usyk, Joshua, and then I see him vanishing, doing his wrestling, because he loves the WWE, making this movie with Jason Statham that was being mooted last year, and coming back in 2 years and seeing who's about then. Give it the Gypsy King's back, even though he's 37 or something, the Gypsy King's back, blah, 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 or I'm going to take on whoever's champion. And that's basically a free hit for him.
Yeah, I don't see him taking on that next generation. Like I said, the Hrgovic, Ogos, Makhmudov, these young guys coming up. He's not going to be Tinder for them. He's got to be a big match. Ruiz is a name. He's got credibility. He did beat Joshua. Back up maybe, but then everybody else really slides away, Steve, to the next generation. Guys in their 20s, guys that he doesn't want to be, the opponent, although he wouldn't be. The perception would be the young guy coming up, making their bones on him. Yeah, I think if he doesn't fight White or Wallin, maybe something, and then waits for the winner of Joshua and Usyk, and that's not will they definitely be able to make that? That's interesting as well. And I'll tell you, Joshua, we're going to really see what the bottom of Joshua is, because I don't know, can he raise to the level of Wilder and give that kind of grit to overcome Usyk if he has to? He's not the puncher that either one of Fury is or Wilder was, but it's really a measure of Joshua, how much determination he has left in his career at this point.
Do you know one interesting thing, Mark? What I think is really interesting, and it's moving on from Fury a little bit. Do you know if he ends up losing to Usyk, Joshua, and then in his career he don't get a Wilder fight and he don't get a Fury fight, when they've pushed it all the way through road to unification, it's all about the legacy. What does he say about Joshua if he doesn't get a fight against one of the main 2 rivals of his era? It's not a great look, is it, really? Forget the money he's made fantastic money. But if he ends up going out of the sport and he's never had a Wilder match and he's never had a Fury match, but those 2 have managed to box each other 3 times, where does that leave him? How people will look back in 5, 6, 7 years? Oh, things move that fast now when they look back in 6 months.
Yeah, especially when we're told, they've done everything they could have to make those fights, and yet the other 2 have gone away and done it 3 times.
Steve, where does that leave him, do you think?
You know what? I've suddenly there's this backlash on Anthony Joshua at the moment. Look, I'm not saying he's been this brilliant world champion, but he's been a solid world champion. And you've got to remember, also he's Olympic gold medalist. Okay, you can argue a couple of the fights there. I think the year before that, 2011. He went. I think I'm not sure what country was it, Azerbaijan, or I'm not sure what country, and won a world amateur silver. He's had a really good career. I think people, man in the street might just think, we got beat by him. But when you analyse it, he's had a rock solid career.
Yeah, no,
and
I'm not saying
he's been a decent champion.
He's had a great career, but his main two rivals all the way through have been Wilder and Fury. And from day one, his main two rivals have been Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury. To me, if he doesn't ever get a fight with one of them two, but they've fought 3 times, it's not a great look, is it? As a whole, not just the boxer, but the promotion and everything.
It'd be sacrilege if he doesn't get a fight with either of those two. But he has activated a rematch clause for him and Usyk. So they're looking around about March. That's the word on the street. He's got to win that fight. He has to win that fight. I believe like he's around some old heads in boxing now, allegedly. He's around some old heads. We're going to see. It's going to be a bit of a shake-up. We're going to see what happens with him and Robert McCracken, him and Joby, and what's the other guy? The other guy.
Is it John Hernandez?
Yeah, Hernandez. That Hernandez guy as well. So we're going to see what he's going to go do. I think what Andy Joshua needs, more than anything, because I had Lennox Lewis speak to a family member of Joshua's, and Lennox straight away said what he needs is to rest. So let's see if he picks up and takes that rest. He needs to rest first. He needs to get his mind right. He's under immense pressure. You got to think, here's a young man that boxed for 2.5 years as an amateur and did all of that. Olympic gold medal, silver medal in the World Games, and an ABA champion. That's a lot. That's a lot. For somebody who, realistically, you don't learn how to jab properly in the first 2.5 years. You don't. So he's done a lot. And people say, oh, well, he's being manufactured and blah. Let's just be real. He's brought money in the UK when it's come to boxing. He's brought a lot of nobody else. And nobody else don't sell out venues like that, kid, neither. You go to Andy Joshua fights like you're going to a rock concert. And that's the truth. Because usually, if you go to boxing matches, you're going to get stopped because you're a face in the game. You're going to get stopped. Everyone wants to talk to you and take selfies. You go to Anthony Joshua, he appeals to the casual fans. He appeals to the grannies. He appeals to guys who just want to line out. He appeals to young women because aesthetically, he's a good-looking guy. He's got that mass appeal. Now, he's also under pressure because he's contracted not to behave a certain way. And I know this is fact. Because do you really think that Anthony Joshua didn't want to punch Big Baby Miller in the face when he insulted his mother? Come on, let's be real. What would you want to do as a man? Someone speaks about your mom. You want to tear his head off. So
I want to report him to VADA if he insulted my mom.
Yeah, all right. Exactly.
If it were Miller, I'd report him to VADA.
Right. So he's under immense pressure, and I appreciate the fact that he's under immense pressure. And you know, when you're in the game, everybody can do better for you. But when it comes to him and the technicalities of this sport, he does need to make some fundamental changes in order for him to get this Usyk win, and then hopefully he could get a fight. Deontay Wilder's still a big fight.
Yeah.
And because they're both of Nigerian descent, that fight could happen in Nigeria because Nigeria's got some oil money out there. They got some big bucks. If someone could negotiate that deal, I know Richard's in with Al Heyman like no one's business, right? You're in, right? Go and have a word, because I'm telling you, that fight in Nigeria would be absolutely massive.
The other change he's got, but the first thing he's got to do before what he's going to do in the gym is get a team that's singing from the same hymn sheet, because it's obvious they not. I saw an interview with Joby Clayton on YouTube. Someone flagged up to me, and in this, it's like a 90-minute interview, and at the end of the interview, he's on about my job is to make Anthony Joshua an all-time great. It's everybody's job, not one man's job. You know, you've got to get a team. You know, for what he's going into, such a make or break fight, everyone from the same hymn sheet, or just working with one man who he's going to trust his life with.
Well, I don't know who Joby Clayton is. I know that he works with Ben. Yeah? No disrespect. I don't know who you are, bro. Where's your track record?
Right. That's the point I've made. Listen, Steve, you know, when I first started off as a trainer or carrying buckets, nobody knew or you were a fan before that. Nobody knew who trainers were, unless you've been Emmanuel Stewart or,
I was
Jimmy
just
Tibbs.
blown
Nobody
away.
knew who they are.
I was just blown away by this interview where there was no irony in it at all. And the actual quote was, just thinking on the top of my head, my jobs in boxing are to make Benjamin, meaning Ben Whittaker, the Olympic silver medalist, and Anthony Joshua, an all-time great. And talking about how AJ used to Instagram, sending messages in secret under a mystery name on Instagram. I was just bewildered by this shit. You know,
but that's the problem. They just want to be. They don't want to be great trainers.
Just
they
get
want
a
to be
team
famous on Instagram.
singing from the same hymn sheet first, and then the fundamental changes that Spencer spoke well about.
Listen,
right. Roll it back to Tyson. Roll it back to Tyson. That's why we're here.
Yeah, no, but I know we're going to pull it back to Tyson. It's all part of Tyson Fury anyway, right? I'm not bashing Angel Fernandez or Ben Whittaker's trainer, Joby. I don't know him. I've met these guys once at a fight. They said hello, and that's it, right? But what I am saying is this: I'm tired of these lack of experienced guys getting these big gigs because they can fool people from Instagram about what work they're doing, and that's that. And I've said it. I'm not taking it back, and I hope this does go out there because you know me, I stand on what I think.
Fellas, I've got to shoot. I've got a daughter to pick up. Richard knew I had to shoot. I'm running a bit late. Thank you.
No problem, Steve.
Thank you, Stephen.
Cheers, Spencer. Cheers, everyone.
So, man.
Thank you.
Spencer, I love your impassioned speech there. I love it. I'm all for it.
No, but he is a lot of trainers now. Are they trainers or are they Instagram models?
No.
Which are they?
I don't disagree at all. I'm with Spence. Right. I'm going to ask one question before we all go. And I'm going to ask each of you individually. If we assume Tyson Fury next fight 6 months from now, so let's call it end of March, beginning of April. We all know the logistics going on where AJ is going to fight Usyk probably around March time. I just want you to tell me, who do you think Fury will fight in 6 months' time? Who would you go with? Anyone? Start me off.
Well, look, for obviously it's Dillian White. If he wins, that's the fight that's the easiest to make. And then, or if Wallen wins, maybe they negotiate where he doesn't have the rematch with Dillian White. They give them a step aside for White, get money to Eddie Hearn, who probably will have the option on him. Failing that, then they got to look into the pool. Top Rank has to look and see if they have any heavy contract where it makes it easier to negotiate. If they have to go out of their own stable, then they'll have to go with PBC, who has the Andy Ruizes under contract and guys like that. So I guess Ruiz might be the most sellable because of the knockout over Joshua, but they'll find someone because the momentum is so great right now with him. I remember Joe Frazier, after he beat Ali, he didn't fight for nearly a year and he boxed to Terry Daniels, but he could get away with it because the fight with Ali was so great and the victory was so great. So he'll fight somebody, likely as Dillian White or Wallen, or maybe somebody within the Top Rank stable if they have a heavyweight capable enough of fighting him.
And do you reckon they'll try and tie that timing in with Joshua Usyk so that they can then play it on to the next 6 months, whereby they'll try and do undisputed?
100%. That fight still has to happen. And you say that's the legacy fight. For Joshua's legacy fight now is coming up. He's got to beat Usyk for his career, for everything else. It's not the money at this point. It's really to go to character. Plus, he's living in Britain. He's competing with Tyson Fury. Makes it even more intense, that rivalry. But yeah, I see the end game is definitely the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is still the winner of Usyk and Joshua, and much more Joshua should he beat Usyk. That's the fight people still want to see.
Lee, who do you reckon, if we said 6 months' time, who's Fury in the ring with?
Annoyingly, I think it'll be White. I can't see it going anywhere else at this stage. I can't see Fury relinquishing just to have a throw his hat in the ring with anyone else. So it's going to be White. I want it to be AJ. We all want it to be AJ, but AJ Usyk is another trick that is not easy for AJ. Certainly not easy. He needs to change what he did graphically because it was a no-show.
Yeah, Rich, who do you see 6 months' time Fury get in the ring with?
I think if White wins, we'll get Fury White. I think if Wallen wins, then I think probably going where Don's gone, I think we'd see something like Fury against Ruiz.
I've got a curveball I'm going to throw in at the end. Spencer, who are you going with?
Definitely Dillian White. I think Dillian White's going to be victorious against Wallen. It's not an easy fight at the end of this month. And that's why I see him fighting. And those two they got proper beef. Dylan used to spar with him. Allegedly, Dylan floored him in sparring. So I think that fear factor is not going to be there. That's the fight that I see. I believe in 6 months, that's the fight that's going to happen. Especially if Dylan puts in a performance, which is not an easy one, because Wallin's a very, very good fighter. And we could be seeing an upset here, but I doubt it very much. So I think that Dylan White's going to come out victorious. He knows he's come this far away, this long. Especially right now, boxing is absolutely buzzing. I walk out my house and old grannies are talking to me about the fight. Now, I swear to God, right, I go to my Tesco's and they stop me. Oh, yeah, what did you think? It's mad. Absolutely mad. No, it is mad. So I'm really grateful to be able to know that it's not like the 80s, where I was fortunate enough to be around, even though I was young. It's not like the 80s, but it's a great time for boxing right now.
James, 6 months' time, who's Fury getting in the ring with?
Again, I'm going to throw a bit of a curveball in there as well. If White wins, which, if I'm honest, I don't think he does, it'd be Dylan White. But if not, and if he does win, I wouldn't be shocked to see him in with Derek Chisora.
Oh, that was my answer.
Yeah, he's
No
always
chance.
I wouldn't. He's always said it. He's always said he'll fight Chisora again, and I just think it wouldn't shock me. I don't want to. I can't see him fighting Parker because they seem really close. But if Chisora wins, I can see that trilogy.
That was exactly my answer, right? He said since the second fight, he'll fight Chisora a third time. They're obviously mates these days.
Yeah, weren't he in his changing room for the Pula fight saying, if you win, we'll fight again?
Yeah,
so it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me.
There's no beef there between the two of them. And I think Fury, as you said, he was in the Pulev dressing room. He said, I'll fight you a third time. What better time than when you just need to kill a bit of time before an undisputed fight, and you can give a payday to your mate Chisora for a world title fight. That's exactly where I was going to go with it.
Yeah.
Mr. Majeski looked disgusted when you said that, James. He looked disgusted.
It's a great fight, Britain. You know, now if there is this rematch clause and Wallin wins, then you're not going to get the White fight. If Eddie enforces that, so he's probably the perfect guy. He's one of an equal of anyone else, and probably the easiest one to make. I don't want to see it, but it's there. I think.
I agree.
Yeah, no one wants to see it, but I can see it happening. Just in that, you wouldn't even have to wait 6 months, would you? You could do it in like February, March time.
I just think there's a few of the narratives as well. Like Chisora's managed by AJ. You know, if Chisora beats Parker, Parker's Fury's mate. So there's a few of the little side tracks there, which nobody.
I don't even want to see Parker and Chisora again.
No,
never mind Fury and Chisora.
No,
you
I hope I'm wrong.
Richard. That's you don't want to see him at all, but yeah.
You've just spoiled our night now going forward, coming out with that one. If that happens now, I'll be fuming. I'll not be able to sleep.
It's the trilogy everyone wants. It's coming to a screen in March next year.
Apologies.
Right, that's it. Thank you very, very much, gents. Lee, absolute pleasure. Thank you for your unique input into a fight with Fury and when you thought he was at the time. I'm glad to see you're keeping well. Rich, thank you very, very much as ever for your input. James, our super fan, thank you for showing us your bedroom as well, if nothing else. Spencer, thank you for your time, your presence, your glasses, your rant about Instagram trainers. It was amazing. And Don, thank you for showing us your library in the background as well, because that looks amazing.
The books have to go back to the rental now, so just
It's wallpaper. Is it wallpaper, Don?
That's true, but don't try to look in them. Yes, that's right.
That was outstanding. I want a day in your house with you, Don, just listening to stories.
Can't tell a book by its cover, but thank you so much. Yeah. I'll take very quick insight. Go to the hospital emergency room. The first thing I hear, this is so true, is two doctors saying, "Did you see the fight last night?" Why my broken bone there, but they're talking to each other, not even knowing I have any connection with boxing. So it shows the impact it had.
Excellent. Right, Pitch Boxing. Big mop-up show, Fury Wilder. Thank you to everyone who's been on. It's an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you.